In this video, you learn how to transcribe vocal melodies onto the guitar. Transcribing vocal melodies is a great exercise for developing a better ear for music. Now, when you transcribe a vocal melody, you learn the intervals of the melody, if you like, the distances between the notes. And what happens is you start to sort of memorize the sound of those intervals and then recognize them in other vocal melodies. And this all helps you in being able to work music out by ear. Hi, this is Simon Candy from AcousticGuitarLessonsOnline.net, and in this lesson I sit down with ear training specialist Dylan Andrews to discuss and demonstrate ways to work out vocal melodies on guitar. In this lesson you're going to learn how best to do this and all the benefits that come from working out vocal melodies on guitar. Dylan will take us through a number of very cool, easy exercises to get going with this. And he'll also show us how not to go about this. There's a very popular way to work out intervals in music, but this method is not really effective in real life, although it is taught a lot in colleges and music schools. So keep watching so you know what to avoid and then, of course, what to do. So let's get to it. Number 5 here, Dylan. So what's the 5th tip for developing a great ear?
Another one that I find really fun is transcribing vocal melodies. This goes back to singing scales, but it's singing scales in a completely different way. Everybody has their favorite songs, their favorite vocal lines and different things, and it can be extremely helpful if you know the intervals that that person is singing. The big thing that this is going to help you do is, especially when you're starting out, it's going to help you be able to sing the intervals a lot easier. If I were to tell you we're in the key of C, sing the 1, and then right away sing the 5, if you have difficulty doing that, which can be hard in the beginning, is if you're singing melodies that you've already been hearing for years, it can be a lot easier. An example of this is if you listen to the song by Iron Maiden, Run to the Hills. This is one of my favorite vocal melodies, the chorus is. And if you struggle with like hearing the 1 to the 3, well, that's the first notes of the song. It's in the key of G, and it goes, run to the hills, run for your life. And again, as you can tell, I'm not an awesome singer, but I can sing the pitches, right? But now, every single time that I hear that song, I know what intervals he's singing. It's a 1, 3, 4, 2, and then it's a 1, 6, 4, 5, 2, 3. And I know it's a lot of intervals. You don't need to know this specific vocal melody. But every time I hear that song now, I hear those intervals, so it's training my ear to identify what they sound like. And the best part of this exercise is all I have to do is listen and know what they're doing. And a great exercise is, as you're listening to the song, it could be this song or any song that you want, is sing along, but don't sing the words, sing the intervals that they are singing. And yeah, every single time you hear the song, you are going to hear the intervals. It's going to train your ear so that when you listen to another vocal line, you will start identifying that. And you can do this with anything. I chose the vocal melodies because vocal melodies are generally easier to do. 70% of the time, if you were to analyze every vocal melody done, around 70% of the time, the next note the singer is singing goes just up 1 in the scale, and then a lot of the times they're just singing 1 note or 2 notes. So vocal melodies can be a lot easier to hear and transcribe and to sing and listen to. But you can do this with anything. You can do this with guitar parts. So if you are listening to songs that you really like, if you know the chords that they're playing, like if you know, okay, this song is doing a 6, 4, 1, 5, then again, the same principle applies here. Is every single time you're listening to that song, you know that's a 6 chord, that's what it sounds like. Here's the 4 chord, that's what it sounds like. But this is one of my favorite ones. This is one that I find the most fun, is transcribing vocal melodies and also chord progressions too, but I do mainly with vocal melodies.
So to clarify then what you're talking about there, what about this method that I always see, and I was sort of taught it at the time, if you want to sing a 5th, think of Star Wars. If you want to sing a 4th, think of, Amazing Grace, etc. Do you think that's a good way, or is that sort of just training you to hear that particular interval in that particular context?
That's a fantastic question, because I hear this all the time and I see that specifically taught all the time.
Yeah, it's
And
very popular.
it is very popular because it's very easy and it gets you going right away. But first off, the vocal melodies, that is not what this is, okay? Because you're singing multiple intervals in application, and you're not just memorizing the 1 and the 5 as the first two. You want to memorize multiple vocal melodies with it. The strategy that you're talking about, Simon, is when you're first starting out and you're struggling to hear the 5, you can sing Star Wars, da, 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 or the second interval, you can think of Happy Birthday, or the 3 is When the Saints Go Marching In. And the reason I know this so well is because I spent years using this method. This is actually how we were trained in music school to start off. And I've gone back and forth on it for a long time, but here's the main thing. When you're training your ear and you listen to a 1 to a 5 in isolation with the correct rhythm, it will sound like Star Wars. But if you listen to that 5th in a different way with other intervals around it, I'm hitting the 5 multiple times, but you no longer hear Star Wars anymore because it's in application with other things. When that 5 is applied with other notes, it's going to have a completely different feeling and function. So it doesn't work. In isolation, it works, but music is not isolated. Everything's in application. So I think relating songs to intervals is honestly can be a bad way to train your ear. And another reason why I don't like it is, let's say you're transcribing your favorite song, or you're creating a really cool song. Do you really want to be thinking of When the Saints Go Marching In, or Star Wars, or the 4th is the wedding song? Do you really want to be thinking of these cheesy tunes when you're trying to transcribe or create awesome music? I don't. It kind of ruins the fun for me. I would say the majority of the time it's not a good way to train your ear. I think in the very beginning, when you're first starting out, for the first couple weeks, if you do that just to get yourself going, I don't necessarily see anything wrong with that, but you need to ditch it quickly. You don't want to carry that on and then try to sing Star Wars and see if it's right. That's really not a great way to train your ear. But a way to figure out notes in a melody, if you're not sure what it is, that's where the singing scales comes into play, because what you can do is, if you hear a note, you're not sure what it is, you can sing that note and then just start descending the scale till you get to the 1, and then you'll know what it is. That is a way better way of figuring out notes and melodies and chord progressions than trying to sing Star Wars and When the Saints Go Marching In.
That's the way I was sort of taught too, in school, and it was like, think of these intervals. But you're absolutely right.
Everybody is.
So I was going to ask, but you already answered it. Would it be okay if you're beginning to start with that? So yeah, as a beginning point, sure. But if you're totally relying on that, it's not going to be really helpful for you in the real world, right?
It is, absolutely. And I'm really hesitant to say, even if you're a beginner, to do it, because what I see a lot of people do is, it's very tempting to do it for a long time and to do it a lot longer than you should. So I think in the very beginning it's good, but like I said, you just want to ditch it really quickly. And I think also too is the reason that, like, in music school and the way that we start learning it, is it's really great for passing tests.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
when the teacher plays an interval isolated,
Yeah.
identifying them to songs really helps pass that test. But when it comes to actually using it in real music, it doesn't work. And when I would talk to my teachers about it, none of them did this. None of them would listen to music and try to think of Star Wars or Happy Birthday. Zero. I asked all of them, and they were like, "Yeah, we don't really do that." you know. But I think what they were doing is exactly what I said. Is it's a good starting point, but you want to ditch it as soon as possible. And honestly, if I was starting over, I would take these 5 tips and I would just do these over and over and over. I wouldn't worry about isolation because all of these tips work in application. None of it's isolated. You're not just singing one interval, you're singing them together, and that's just the best way to train your ear.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I mean, I've done, the traditional sort of learn the intervals like we're talking about here, and it's not only not very effective, it's just it gets very boring,
Oh,
after a while, because it's like it's almost
absolutely.
it's like, why am I doing this? Because you can't quite connect it to actual music, you're not really hearing Star Wars, as you say, in a melody that's got a fifth somewhere in there. So you're thinking there's no connection to real life. So after a while, you think, well, yeah, I can identify these intervals in isolation, but it does nothing for me when I'm playing guitar. I can't connect it to being a better musician. So I agree, like, to be able to take the things you've offered here today is putting it into more real situations and makes it much more interesting, but also you'll see many more
Absolutely.
benefits.
I think that's a big reason why a lot of musicians don't have a trained ear is because either they've tried it before and they've done that method and it's just boring. It's so boring. It's
Yeah,
for
it
for
is.
me doing it, it was like just trying to drag myself out of it. I just,
Yeah,
like playing scales and solos and all of those fast techniques and creating chord progressions. That's so much more fun
yeah,
than singing Star Wars and Happy Birthday and
yeah,
all these things. But what you want to do is you need to find ways to train your ear in a way that you look forward to, that makes
yeah,
it fun. And
yeah,
for me, like creating my own melodies and then trying to sing them, taking songs that I love and singing the intervals of them, listening to emotions and how I feel like that sounds, that is just such a more fun and more effective way to train your ear. But yeah, you've got to find ways to make it fun. And I find too, tracking your progress makes it way more fun too. If you can write down how long something takes you, or if you can record yourself singing intervals and seeing how accurate you are, and then take another recording 2 weeks later, tracking your progress in these ways just makes it so much more fun. And for me, I don't want to do the reason that I play guitar and do it for a living is because it's fun. So in my practice, I want to make sure that it's fun as well.
If you like this video, you'll love this ebook complete with video examples called 10 Melodic Fingerpicking Patterns you can learn in 10 minutes or less. Do you struggle to make the fingerpicking patterns you learn on guitar sound like music? Perhaps it's because you believe in one or more of these fingerpicking pattern myths. 1. You need to know a lot of patterns to have your fingerpicking sound musical. 2. Only advanced fingerpicking patterns sound musical. Easy patterns are too basic to sound any good. Or 3. There is a magic pattern out there somewhere that once found will finally have your fingerpicking sound the way you want it to. None of these myths are true. This is because fingerpicking patterns alone are not musical. They're technical. It's what you do with the patterns that will determine how musical they sound. In this ebook, you learn how to make the most boring fingerpicking patterns sound amazing instantly. Plus, the simple trick to make advanced fingerpicking patterns easier to play, and the thumb and one finger trick that's so simple and will have your fingerpicking sounding pro in no time. Click the link in the description below this video and download your free ebook complete with video examples, 10 melodic fingerpicking patterns you can learn in 10 minutes or less. You'll have it in your inbox within minutes. Let me know in the comments section what acoustic guitar topics you'd like to see covered in future videos. I love hearing from you. I read all comments and I do my very best to answer them all. So don't be shy, drop me a line. I would love to hear from you. If you like this video, then hit the like button. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. And of course, hit that all important notification bell button so YouTube can tell you when I've released a new video. This is Simon Candy from acousticguitarlessonsonline.net. As always, thank you for watching this video. I really appreciate your time. And I also look forward to seeing you in the next video.